From Joseph Jacobs' Book of Celtic Fairy Tales, this is the story of Jack and his master. A poor woman had 3 sons. The eldest and second eldest were cunning, clever fellows, but they called the youngest Jack the Fool, because they thought he was no better than a simpleton. The eldest got tired of staying at home and said he'd go look for service. He stayed away for a whole year and then came back one day, dragging one foot after the other, a poor wizened face upon him, and he as cross as 2 sticks. When he was rested and had got something to eat, he told them how he got service with the grey curl of the townland of Mischance, and that the agreement was, whoever would first say he was sorry for his bargain should get an inch wide of the skin of his back, from shoulder to hips, taken off. If it was the master, he should also pay double wages. If it was the servant, he should get no wages at all. But the thief, says he, gave me so little to eat, and kept me so hard at work, that the flesh and the blood couldn't stand it. And when he asked me once, when I was in passion, if I was sorry for my bargain, I was mad enough to say I was, and here I am disabled for life. Vexed enough were the poor mother and brothers, that the second eldest said he'd go on the spot and take service with the grey curl, and punish him by all the annoyance he'd give him, till he made him say he was sorry for his agreement. "Oh, won't I be glad to see the skin coming off the old villain's back," said he, and all they could say had no effect. He started off for the townland of Mischance, and in a 12-month he was back just as miserable and as helpless as his brother. All the poor mother could say didn't prevent Jack the Fool from starting to see if he was able to regulate the grey curl. He agreed with him for a year for £20, and the terms were the same. "Now, Jack," said the grey curl, "if you refuse to do anything you are able to, you must lose a month's wages." "I am satisfied," said Jack, "and if you stop me from doing a thing after telling me to do it, you have to give me an additional month's wages." "I am satisfied," says the master. "Or if you blame me for obeying your orders, you must give me the same." "I am satisfied," said the master again. The first day Jack served, he was fed very poorly, and he was worked to the saddle skirts. Next day he came in just before the dinner was set up to the parlour. They were taking the goose off the spit, but well becomes Jack, he whips a knife off the dresser and cuts off one side of the beast, one leg, one thigh and one wing, and fell to it. In came the master and began to abuse him for his assurance. "Oh, you know, master, you're to feed me, and wherever the goose goes won't have to be filled again till supper. Are you sorry for our agreement?" The master was going to cry out he was, but he bethought himself in time. "Oh no, not at all," said he. "That's well," says Jack. The next day Jack was to go to clamp turf on the bog. They weren't sorry to have him away from the kitchen at dinner time, and he didn't find his breakfast very heavy on his stomach, so he said to the mistress, "I think, ma'am, it'll be better for me to get me dinner now, so not to lose time coming home from the bog." "That's true, Jack," she said. So she brought out good cake, print of butter, and a bottle of milk, thinking he'd take them away to the bog. But Jack kept his seat, and never drew rein till bread, butter, and milk went down the red lane. "Now, mistress," said he, "I'll be at my work earlier tomorrow if I sleep comfortably on the sheltery side of a pile of dry peat on dry grass, and not be coming here and going back. So you may as well give me supper, and it be done with the day's trouble." So she gave him that, thinking he'd take it to the bog. But he fell on to the spot, and he did not leave a scrap to tell tales on him, and the mistress was a little astonished. He called to speak to the master and the haggard, and said he, "What are the servants asked to do in this country after they've eaten their supper?" "Nothing at all but go to bed." "Ah, very well, sir." He went up on the stable loft, stripped, and lay down, and someone saw him, told the master, and he came up. "Jack, you anointed scoundrel, what do you mean?" "To go to sleep, master. The mistress, God bless her, is giving me my breakfast, dinner, and supper, and you yourself told me that bed was the next best thing." "Do you blame me, sir?" "Yes, rascal, I do." "Well, hand out me £1 and 13 and 4 pence, if you please, sir." "One devil and 13 imps, you tinker. What for?" "Oh, I see you forgot your bargain." "Are you sorry for it?" "Ah, no, I mean, I'll give you your money after your nap." Next morning, early, Jack was asked how he'd be employed that day. "You are to be holding the plough in that fallow, outside the paddock." The master went over to Jack about 9 o'clock in the morning to see what kind of ploughman was Jack. And what did he see but the little boy driving the baste, and the sock and the coulter of the plough skimming along the sod, and Jack pulling ding-dong again the horses. "What are you doing, you contrary thief?" says the master. And ain't I striving to hold this devil of a plough as you told me? But that out crown of a boy keeps whipping on the base in spite of all I say. Will you speak to him? No, but I'll speak to you. Didn't you know, you bosthoon, that when I said holding the plough, I meant reddening the ground? Faith, and if you did, I wish you'd have said so. Do you blame me for what I have done? The master caught himself in time, but he was so stomached he said nothing. Go on and redden the ground now, you knave, as the other ploughmen do. And are you sorry for our agreement? No, not at all, not at all, not at all. Jack ploughed away like a good workman all the rest of the day. In a day or two, the master bade him to go mind the cows in a field that had half of it under young corn. Be sure, particularly, said he, to keep Brownie from the wheat, or she's out to mischief. There's no fear in the rest. About noon he went out to see how Jack was doing his duty, and what did he find but Jack asleep with his face in the sod, Brownie grazing near a thorn tree, one end of a long rope tied round her horns, the other end tied round the tree, the rest of the beasts all trampling and eating in the green wheat. Down came the switch on Jack. Jack, you vagabond, do you see where the cows are at? And do you blame me, master? To be sure, you lazy sluggard, I do. Well, hand me out £1, 13 and 4pence, master. You said, if only I keep Brownie out of mischief, the rest would do no harm. And there she is, as harmless as a lamb. Are you sorry for hiring me, master? To be... That is, not at all. I'll give you your money when you go to dinner. Now understand me, don't let a cow out this field, nor into the wheat for the rest of the day. Never fear, master. And neither did he, for the curl would rather a great deal he had not hired him. The next day 3 heifers were missing, and the master bade Jack to go search for them. Where will I look for them? Said Jack. Oh, every place likely and unlikely for them to all to be in. The curl was getting very exact in his words. When he was coming into the barn at dinner time, what work did he find Jack doing but pulling out armfuls of the thatch off the roof and peeping into the holes he was making? What are you doing up there, you rascal? Sure, I'm looking for the heifers, poor things. And what would bring them there? I don't think anything would bring them in it, but first I looked in all the likely places, that is the cow house and the pastures and the fields next to them, and now I'm looking in all the unlikeliest places I can think of. Maybe it's not pleasing to you, it is. And to be sure it's not pleasing to me, you aggravating goose cap. Please, sir, hand me £1 and 13 4pence before you sit down to your dinner. I'm afraid it's sorrow on you for hiring me at all. May the devil... Oh, no, I'm not sorry. Will you begin, if you please, to put the thatch in again, just as if you were doing it for your mother's cabin? Oh, faith I will, sir, with heart and a half. And by the time the farmer came out from his dinner, Jack had the roof better than it was before, for he made the boy give him brand new straw. Says the master when he comes out, Go, Jack, and look for the heifers, and bring them home. Jack says, Where will I look for them? Go search for them as if you were your own. And the heifers were all in the paddock before sunset. Next morning, says the master, Jack, the path across the bog to the pasture is very bad. The sheep does be sinking in it with every step. Go make the sheep's feet a good path. After about an hour he came to the edge of the bog, and what did he find Jack at but sharpening a carving knife, and the sheep standing or grazing round. Is this the way you be mending the path, Jack? Said he. Everything must have a beginning, master, says Jack, and a thing well begun is a thing half done. I'm sharpening the knife, and I'll have the feet of every sheep in the flock while you be blessing yourself. Feet off my sheep, you anointed rogue! What will you be taking the feet off for? And to be sure to mend the path, as you told me. Says you, Jack, make a path with the foot of the sheep. Oh, you fool, I meant make good the path for the sheep's feet. It's a pity you didn't say so, master. Hand me out £1 and 13 and 4pence, if you don't like me to finish my job. Devil do you good with your £1 and 13 and 4pence. 'Tis better to pray than to curse, master. May you be sorry for your bargain. And to be sure I am... Not yet, anyway, not yet. The next night the master was going to a wedding, and he says to Jack before he sets out, I leave at midnight, and I wish you to come and be with me home, for fear I might be overtaken with the drink. If you're there before, you may throw a sheep's eye at me, and I'll sure to see that they'll give you something for yourself. At about 11 o'clock, while the master was in great spirits, he felt something clammy hit him on the cheek. It fell beside his tumbler, and when he looked at what it was but the eye of a sheep. Well, he couldn't imagine who threw it at him, or why it was thrown at him. After a little he got a blow on the other cheek. Still it was by another sheep's eye. Well, he was very vexed, but he thought better to say nothing. In 2 minutes more, when he was opening his mouth to take a sup of his beer, another sheep's eye was slapped into it. He spluttered it out and cried, "Man of the house, isn't it a great shame for you to have any one in the room that would do such a nasty thing?" "Master," says Jack, "don't blame the honest man. Surely it's only myself that was throwing them sheep eyes at you, to remind you here I was, and that I wanted to drink the bride and the bridegroom's health. You know yourself bade me." "I know that you're a great rascal, and where did you get the eyes?" "And where would I get them but the heads of your own sheep? Why, would you have me meddle in the base of any neighbour who might put me in the stone jig for it? Sorrow on me that I ever had the bad luck to have met with you." "You are all witness," says Jack, "that my master is sorry for having met with me. My time is up, master. Hand me over my double wages, and come into the next room and lay yourself out like a man that has some decency in, till I can take a strip of skin an inch broad from your shoulder to your hip." Everyone shouted out against that, but says Jack, "You didn't hinder him when he took the same strips from the back of me 2 brothers, and sent them home in that state, and penniless, and to their poor mother." When the company had heard the rights of business, they were only too eager to see the job done. The master bawled and roared, but there was no help at hand. He was stripped to his hips, laid on the floor in the next room, and Jack had the carving knife in his hand, ready to begin. "Now, you cruel old villain," he says, giving the knife a couple of scrapes along the floor, "I'll make you an offer. Give me, along with my double wages, 200 guineas to support my poor brothers, and I'll do without the strap." "No," says he, "I'll let you skin me from head to foot first." "Here goes then," says Jack with a grin, and but by the first little scar he gave, the girl roared out, "Stop your hand! I'll give you the money." "Now, neighbours," says Jack, "you mustn't think worse of me than I deserved. I wouldn't have the heart to take the eye out of the sheep itself. I got half a dozen of them from the butcher, and I only used 3 of them." So all came again into the other room, and Jack was made to sit down, and drank everybody's health, and he drank everybody's health in one offer. And 6 stout fellows saw him and the master home, and waited in the parlour while the master went up and brought down the 200 guineas and double wages for Jack himself. When he got home, he brought the summer along with them to his poor mother and his disabled brothers, and he was no more Jack the Fool in the people's mouths, but Skin Curl Jack.